There are places that seem to belong to the world we know. And then there are places that make the world seem suddenly ancient. The Grand Canyon is one of them. Standing at its rim, the eye encounters a landscape almost too vast to comprehend. Mile-deep cliffs glowing red and gold, distant buttes rising from the shadows, and far below, the Colorado River winding like a narrow thread through stone. But the Grand Canyon is more than a spectacular view. It is a geological archive, a living ecosystem, and a sacred landscape shaped by people and nature. The Grand Canyon stretches for roughly 277 miles across northern Arizona, cutting through the elevated Colorado Plateau. In places, it reaches nearly 18 miles across and descends almost a mile from the rim to the Colorado River. Yet its true scale is difficult to grasp from photographs. The canyon's walls reveal an extraordinary sequence of Earth's history. At its deepest levels are ancient metamorphic and igneous rocks, including Vishnu Schist, formed roughly 1.8 billion years ago. Above them lie enormous layers of sedimentary rock deposited hundreds of millions of years ago, when this region was repeatedly transformed by ancient seas, deserts, rivers, and coastal environments. Among the most recognizable formations are the pale Coconino sandstone, created from ancient sand dunes, the Bright Angel shale, which forms broad slopes, the massive Redwall limestone, the red rocks of the Supai group, and the Kaibab limestone, which caps much of the canyon's upper landscape. The Colorado River is central to the canyon's modern form. Over millions of years, flowing water, sediment, floods, and tributaries gradually cut downward into the elevated plateau. Weathering, landslides, flash floods, and wind then widened the canyon and sculpted its cliffs and side valleys. The result is not the work of a single event, but of countless geological processes unfolding across immense spans of time. The Grand Canyon is, in effect, a landscape where Earth's history has been opened for us to see. Despite its desert appearance, the Grand Canyon contains an astonishing variety of climates and ecosystems. Its enormous difference in elevation creates dramatic changes over relatively short distances. The North Rim rises above 8,000 feet, while the Colorado River lies thousands of feet below. As visitors descend, temperature, vegetation, and wildlife change with them. The higher elevations support forests of ponderosa pine, spruce, fir, and other mountain species. Lower slopes become warmer and drier, eventually giving way to desert vegetation adapted to intense heat and limited rainfall. Near the river, however, water creates narrow green corridors through the surrounding desert. Willows, mesquite, and other riparian plants provide shelter and food for birds, mammals, insects, and reptiles. The canyon therefore contains a remarkable collection of ecological zones, almost like several different landscapes stacked vertically. Summer can be surprisingly dangerous in the inner canyon, where temperatures may soar far above those at the rim. In winter, the higher plateaus can be covered in snow while the river corridor remains relatively mild. The Grand Canyon is not one ecosystem. It is many ecosystems living together across a single immense geological staircase. The Grand Canyon is home to an extraordinary variety of plants and animals, shaped by its dramatic changes in elevation and climate. On the higher rims, forests of pine, fir, spruce, and aspen provide shelter for elk, mule deer, squirrels, and countless birds. Along the cliffs, bighorn sheep move effortlessly across steep rocky slopes, while ravens, hawks, and eagles ride the rising air currents above the canyon. Deeper within the canyon, desert plants such as agave, yucca, cactus, and mesquite survive beneath intense heat and limited rainfall. Along the Colorado River, riparian vegetation creates narrow green habitats where wildlife can find water and food. Among the canyon's most remarkable inhabitants is the California condor, one of North America's largest flying birds. Once nearly extinct, condors have been reintroduced to the Grand Canyon region. In the river itself, native fish such as the humpback chub have adapted to powerful currents and changing conditions. The canyon's wildlife reflects the same principle as its geology. Survival is written in layers. The Grand Canyon is more than a spectacular natural landmark. For generations, it has been a place of memory, ceremony, identity, and spiritual meaning. To millions of modern visitors, the canyon represents wilderness and wonder. But for indigenous peoples, its significance reaches much deeper. Cliffs, rivers, springs, caves, and trails can carry stories and traditions passed down through generations. The landscape is therefore not simply something to observe. It is something to know. A spring may be a source of water, but it can also be sacred. A trail may be a route through difficult terrain, while also connecting communities to places of cultural importance. A canyon wall may record geological history while simultaneously belonging to a traditional story. This layered meaning gives the Grand Canyon a significance that cannot be measured by its size alone. Its beauty attracts visitors from around the world, but its deeper cultural importance reminds us that landscapes are not empty spaces. They can be homes, classrooms, sacred places, and living memories. Long before the Grand Canyon became a national park or a destination for travelers, indigenous peoples lived in and around this extraordinary landscape. Archaeological evidence shows human presence in the Grand Canyon region extending back thousands of years. Over generations, indigenous communities developed detailed knowledge of its trails, springs, plants, animals, seasons, and river corridors. Today, numerous tribes maintain strong cultural connections to the canyon, including the Havasu Pai, Hualapai, Hopi, Navajo Nation, Southern Paiute communities, Kaibab Band of Paiute Indians, and Zuni, among others. Each has its own traditions and relationship with the landscape. There is no single indigenous understanding of the Grand Canyon. For the Havasu Pai, Havasu Canyon has been a homeland for generations. Its flowing turquoise waters support an oasis of vegetation surrounded by the arid cliffs of the wider canyon. The landscape is not simply scenic, it is part of community, history, and identity. The Hualapai also maintain a deep connection to the western Grand Canyon and surrounding lands. For the Hopi and other indigenous peoples, places within and around the canyon are connected to sacred histories, ancestral traditions, and emergence stories. Yet this relationship was severely disrupted during the era of Euro-American expansion. Government policies, settlement, mining, and the creation of protected areas sometimes restricted indigenous access to traditional lands and resources. Today, indigenous voices remain essential to understanding the Grand Canyon. Their knowledge reveals something that a map or geological survey cannot. This landscape is not merely ancient stone. It is homeland, it is memory, and for many communities, it remains a living place of cultural and spiritual connection. For centuries, the Grand Canyon was known primarily to the indigenous peoples who lived in and around it. To outsiders, however, it remained one of the most difficult landscapes in North America to reach. In 1869, John Wesley Powell led one of the first major Euro-American expeditions through the canyon, navigating the Colorado River by boat and documenting its geology and landscapes. His journey helped bring scientific attention to the canyon and inspired a growing fascination with the American West. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, tourism began to transform the region. Trails, hotels, railways, and viewing areas made the canyon increasingly accessible. In 1901, the railroad reached the South Rim, allowing visitors to arrive in relative comfort rather than undertaking difficult journeys across the desert. The Grand Canyon became a national monument in 1908 and a national park in 1919. Today, millions of people visit each year to hike, raft, camp, photograph, and simply stand at the rim. Yet tourism presents a paradox. The more people come to experience the canyon, the greater the responsibility to protect the very landscape that brought them there. The Grand Canyon may appear timeless, but its ecosystems are vulnerable to modern change. One of the greatest influences has been Glen Canyon Dam, which altered the natural behavior of the Colorado River. Seasonal floods, water temperatures, and sediment movement changed dramatically, affecting beaches, vegetation, and native fish. Non-native species have created additional pressures. Introduced fish compete with or prey upon native species such as the humpback chub, while invasive plants can alter river habitats. Climate change adds another uncertainty. Rising temperatures, prolonged drought, changing precipitation, and pressure on Colorado River water supplies may affect ecosystems throughout the canyon. Yet conservation efforts offer reasons for hope. Scientists monitor native fish, restore habitats, control invasive species, and conduct carefully managed river flow experiments. The reintroduction of California condors has also become one of the region's most inspiring conservation stories. Protecting the Grand Canyon means protecting more than its spectacular cliffs. It means preserving its river, wildlife, forests, archaeological sites, cultural landscapes, and the ecological processes that keep the canyon alive. The challenge is not to stop nature from changing. It is to ensure that human activity does not change it beyond recognition. As the sun sets over the Grand Canyon, the cliffs seem to change color. Red becomes copper, gold fades into shadow, and the Colorado River disappears into the darkness below. For a moment, the landscape feels still. But it is not. The river continues to flow. Rock continues to weather. Wildlife continues to move through forests, deserts, and hidden side canyons. The Grand Canyon reminds us that what appears permanent is always changing. Its cliffs were shaped across millions of years, while our own lives occupy only a tiny moment within that immense story. To stand here is to witness deep time made visible. And perhaps that is the canyon's greatest gift, not simply to make us feel small, but to make us aware. The earth is ancient, the landscape is alive, and its story is still being